Okay, so today we're taking it back to the classics. This is a proper, very comfortable home studio setup, and this is with my friend Kurt Heinecke, who is a composer. He does a lot of songwriting and scoring and composition for video. Primarily, he's worked on the show VeggieTales for the last 25 years, which is a remarkable career in that field, and still doing it, and doing it 100% from his home studio, now in a bonus room above what I presume is the garage. But I really love his setup because, one, it reminds me of my first home studio setup, which was also a bonus room above the garage. But his is so much more comfortable than mine is. He really went above and beyond with how everything's organized, what he put in there, how he uses everything, and how it's just set up perfectly for the function of how he uses it. Kurt's also a photographer. I can appreciate people who do audio and photo, video work, just the hunger for constantly doing creative stuff. I just got a new lens for my camera as well, and it's probably one of the most exciting things I've gotten, so I'm very, very excited about stuff like that. So it was fun to relate on some other stuff outside of the audio and the music world. I'll put Kurt's links to his website and his email down below if you want to reach out to him or follow him, see what he's up to. Thank you, Kurt, for having me. So as you know, Sweetwater is the sponsor of this series, which, by the way, is every Monday on this channel. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. But Sweetwater actually helped me upgrade my guitar rig this month because it is guitar month at Sweetwater. And one of the things that is one of the first mics that I got that I think is just a staple, you probably have one or a handful of them, or if you're just starting out, maybe you are trying to figure out which mic you want to get. This is the mic that I recommend getting if you don't have one. Hold on. It is, of course, the SM57. Classic instrument cardioid dynamic microphone that you can use on literally everything. You can use it on your voice, you can use it on loud guitar amps right behind me. You can use it on drums like a snare drum. They just seem to work all the time. They're also not expensive to get. So if you're looking for your first mic to invest in, it's a good one. I'll put a link to it down below. So check this out. I just used the 57 on this amp to reamp something for a project that I'm working on. And what I reamped was actually a bass guitar performance that I recorded DI, and I'm rerunning it through this pedal wall up behind me, out through the amp, and I'm miking it with the 57 to add just the perfect amount of grit and mid-range and just depth to the bass sound on this track. Check it out. So we're using an SM57 on a small combo tube amp, low watt, 5 watt, and I'm running a bass DI through it. And then when I add in the DI with it, wow, that sounds really cool. So the 57, a staple of any recording studio. If you're looking to pick one up, I'll put a link to it down in the description. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video and all of the other videos. Throughout this month, I'm gonna go through and show you some of the new things that I got for my guitar rig slash reamping rig slash just toy box of tools for my studio. So leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think of Kurt's studio. Kurt, thank you so much for having me. If you guys want to book a Zoom call with me on my website, go to ANDREWMASTERSmusic.com. You can book a Zoom call and we can chat about anything you want, studio related, or any of the services here listed above. You can go to ANDREWMASTERSmusic.com. Also, soon there will be a new member section where there's going to be exclusive content, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, let's go check out Kurt's very comfortable home studio setup. It's so much further.
Welcome to my place. I've got this extra space here that I've just loved hanging up just all my stuff, whether it's awards or locations that I've visited. I've shot all these photographs, memories, everything means something here from past performances, stuff with my kids, and I'm a little bit of a Disney nut, so this actually hung in the All-Star Music Resort at Disney World.
Oh, cool.
And this is a shot that I took of the castle.
Ooh. That's amazing.
So
Is that like a 1.8? What do you use on that?
that was a tilt shift lens, which I wasn't using as tilt shift, but it gave it an amazing quality, clarity in
Yeah,
it.
it looks beautiful.
I've got several friends, because of so much animation work that I do in music. I've got a lot of friends that are in animation. So you'll see some animation that some of them have done and that sort of thing.
Hey, look at this.
Oh,
I recognize this fella.
that's a Mr. John Williams. That was a highlight for me. I photographed the Nashville Symphony also, and they did a fundraiser with John 2 years ago, and I got to photograph it.
That
was
is
amazing.
So cool.
And got a picture with him, which, yeah, I mean, you see here, Close Encounters was one of the most influential films for me growing up.
Wow.
Both just the story and the score, and to be able to meet John then later, yeah, highlight of my life. So
How cool.
to walk by him every day when I come to work is great.
That's amazing.
And some of the movies I've worked on, The Pirates Who Don't Do Anything with VeggieTales. As you'll see in my studio, I've got a German theme, so I've got some German stuff going on here.
This is cool. My kid would love this.
Okay,
Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, so my buddy worked at Disney, and this came out of the, I don't know if I should be saying this. This came out of the garbage can. This is extras. So this is the first of a series of animations, and this is the end, 513 through 19.
Wow.
So that means there's 5 frames in between here that then the secondary animator animates going from point A to point B.
Wow.
So that's what all these numbers mean.
That is so cool. That's a good one. We've seen that one 100 times.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome to KH Studios.
KH Studios. Holy cow.
Plural, because I'm a musician and a photographer. So, but most of what you'll see here is music related.
This is beautiful.
It's cozy. That was my goal. We moved in here 2 years ago from Franklin, and my wife found this house, and she picked it out because of this upstairs, that she knew I needed some space on my own. So I've got my own space up here, I've got my own bathroom up here, so I can practically live up here. I've always been enamored with German pubs, German background. I've got a German background myself. I played in a German band, and actually I led a German band in high school. And I've always wanted wooden beams, German pub sort of look. So my buddy, actually the one that was an animator for Disney, he's also a woodworker, and we took wood out of 2 barns that had been torn down in Franklin. And so all the woodwork on the ceilings and then all the shelves come out of barns in Franklin. He helped me do all the stripping of the wood and finishing it and that sort of thing. So I'm going for that German pub feel. Ironically, I don't drink beer, but with a name like Heinecke, I had a little fun with the Heineken theme.
So you must have done a ton of traveling, because there's stuff from everywhere in here.
Well, yeah. Actually, with VeggieTales, we did one of our scores in Prague, Czech Republic. So spent 9 days there. Did another score in Seattle. My kids play violin in a studio here, Music City Strings, and we've, with them, because I've been one of their directors, we've toured Europe and China and Canada.
Holy cow.
And then I photograph. I'm fortunate to photograph on a couple cruises a year.
Okay.
So I'm always in the Caribbean doing things, always drop by Disney for a day when I'm down there. So anytime I'm somewhere, I'm always on the lookout. We'll see on the shelves over here, or on the shelves over here. You know, I love picking up a little percussion instrument, little whistle, little recorder, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've found some of the best stuff in souvenir shops and in street markets and that sort of stuff, because you never know when you're gonna have a use for it.
What got you started? Did you start as a player?
Yeah, okay, so my family is all musical. I've got 2 older brothers. My mom was a choir director, an organist, a vocal teacher. My dad played cello. And I grew up in church, playing trumpet in church and singing in the choir. But then I was just this geeky kid, and I started studying my mom's theory books, her college theory books in junior high, and just kind of getting interested in arranging and that sort of stuff. And so by high school, I had a buddy who had a 4-track reel-to-reel recorder, and another buddy who had a monophonic ARP-X synthesizer, and another buddy who had a Yamaha electric organ. And somehow they let me borrow all of those.
Oh,
I had those set up in my house. And a huge influence was Walter at the time, Wendy Carlos's Switched on Bach album, which is all synthesizers playing Bach. And I was like, I can do that with a monophonic synthesizer and 4-track reel-to-reel. So I would kind of experiment with that. It all sounded terrible back then. I mean, it was out of tune. But it just got the juices flowing.
You found the potential.
Yeah, and I was enamored with that. I've got a music education degree. I've got in band and choral, but I was always dabbling in the electronics. And then got involved. I was a band director for a couple of years, but got involved in a church, and I was having to do a lot of programming and sequencing there. And it was in this church that the creators of VeggieTales were members of the church and members of the music team. So I was working with those guys before they even had the vision for VeggieTales, and they came to me and said, hey, we've got this idea about talking vegetables, telling Bible stories. And I'm like, hey, yeah, that sounds a little weird, but sounds interesting, because they said, would you like to help with the music?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I have no idea where we're going with this, but I love the idea because these guys were really creative. So just got started with them back in '93. And, the first couple of years, it didn't take off. My dad would be like, you're not really getting paid, and is this worth doing? And I'm like, these are good guys. These are good stories. I feel good about this. And then, it exploded, and here we are now.
That's amazing. What a long journey. That's almost 30 years.
Actually, we came out a couple of years before Toy Story came out.
Wow.
With the animation of Bob and Larry. And so that was pretty groundbreaking, not just because of the stories, but because of the way it was being told.
Right.
So to be involved in that from the very beginning, those first shows I sequenced on a Korg 01 WFD. I mean, on a floppy drive.
Yeah.
Didn't even have a computer yet. I was using a stopwatch to time the score, if you even could call it a score back then, because it was mostly songs. But as we got into it further, then ended up getting a Mac computer and Studio Vision Pro, and now I'm on Logic. It always starts in the computer. I've got a big computer system here, but I love adding acoustic instruments to it.
Yeah.
It could be just one instrument on the top of it, but it's amazing what one live trumpet will do to a stack of synthesized brass. All of a sudden our ears believe you're hearing a whole acoustic section.
Yeah.
I've seen studios, I've worked in studios that are pristine and, clean stonework and woodwork around, and just nothing out of place. And I was like, it just doesn't feel right to me. I'm a cluttered kind of guy, and I love messiness. I love memories. So when I was building this, I was like, you know what? I want to get everything in here.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to do is have access to everything, because the studio I had built before this, I had things in cases and I had to take things out. And that was one of my main goals, was I want to, I've got 4 microphones set up in the studio all the time, and I want to just be able to grab an instrument and just record it like that.
That's awesome.
And then I didn't even think about it at first, but with the wooden beams in here, I was like, I can just put big eye hooks in here and hooks and hang all my brass instruments and just grab them. I've got a whole shelf system for all my Irish whistles and Native American flutes and all of that sort of stuff, so I can just grab what I need. And so that's what we started with. I spent nights just in bed thinking, okay, how am I gonna display all my whistles and flutes? And just spent days wandering around Home Depot and found these are the tops of wooden fences. And I'm like, wait a minute, if I turn those over and then put hooks in them, I can get 2 layers of flutes. So everything's by key, C, D, E, F, G, and they're all different, styles. Irish whistles, these are low Irish whistles.
So
cool. I can play Titanic for you. But then you get into some of the ethnic Middle Eastern tunings.
Yes.
So that's why you see so many different things here. Here's a Native American, so you've got a different tuning going on here. You can get into totally different reed. There's a reed in here. This one can get a little wonky. Let's see if I can do this. So that's why you see so many varieties. And, you know, I hinted before, you know, you go to Mexico and you pick up a $3 whistle like this, and you think, okay, it doesn't sound good, it's real breathy, or maybe out of tune.
Yeah.
But I've done projects that I need to emulate first century music.
Yeah.
I'm like, there you go, get it breathy, get it out of tune, that's what they're looking for.
That's so cool.
So yeah, I love just having this again at my fingertips, able to grab whatever I need to grab. This is a flag that my dad brought home from Japan. He was in the occupying forces of World War II.
Whoa.
He played in an orchestra there. It was half American troops and half Japanese citizens. So it was part of their program of bringing the country back together. So that's a neat memory of my dad there.
Very cool. More whistles?
Yeah.
Percussion?
Recorders, whistles, percussion, just the extra doodads. Yeah, I've got recorders laying all over the place. So, and then, you know, I love, and I've got a bunch over there, just noisemakers. This is my I guess my Christmas selection.
Yeah.
But this sort of stuff, you know, you've got a bed of synthesized loops, but you put something like this over the top of it, and it just brings it to life.
Yeah.
I'm a big Disney fan. I love their parks. I love the attention to detail, because I do a lot of that myself. I've actually worked on about 13 projects now that I've played whistles, trumpet, trombone, clarinet in some of their park shows. So I'm a big fan of Disney. I've gone through cycles. You know, I start a collection, so maybe one year it's accordions, one year it's rotary valve brass instruments, and I've gone through a time period where I loved collecting authentic Disney stuff, because you'll see that online sometimes. So like these are seaweed from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea that didn't get used because they were going to do a refurbishment and they ended up not doing it. So that's from there. And my one thing that I'm really excited about is Country Bear Jamboree has a show, and this is the character Max, and he is in the show, and they were selling extra fur of his because they were going to do a refurbishment that they didn't do. And so this is actually the shipping crate. It says WDW Magic Kingdom, Max's Belly. So I got a whole bolt of fur for him, and that's what you see right here.
What?
This is Max's Belly, and I'm going to show you over here.
This is from a show?
Well, again, it was a refurb, so this is what they bought for the show.
Oh, okay.
And didn't get to use it. But it came out of a company in LA that literally makes fur for Chewbacca and for Sasquatch and those sorts of things. But these are my sound absorption panels. I just took the standard, you know, stuff that you get, put it on a framework here and zip tied Max's fur around it.
Nice.
And it worked perfectly in this space because I've got an open space here. I can get a string quartet in here. I can get a vocal octet. And it just, with a couple of these doors, it was just getting a little bit too much bounce back, and these are perfect for that. So
that's great.
So they're a little fun thing to have.
What are all these awards in here?
Okay, so those are Dove Awards, Gospel Music Association. Dove Awards, they're all production. I've gotten 7 of them for work with VeggieTales, both albums and videos that we've done. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Very, very honored to have gotten those. I love space program. Here's a little. This is Gus Grissom's. This is film that was in the Gemini spacecraft that sank in the ocean.
Whoa. And
so yeah, got my accordion collection. I'm warning you, kids. You just need one accordion. I think I've got. My son has one, and I think I've got 5, because I've got another one in storage. But, you know, accordions are beautiful because every one of them has a different flavor to it.
Yeah.
The different patches. I love old vintage stuff. Yeah, I can't afford a Hammond B3, but if you can't afford a Hammond B3, go on Craigslist. You'd be amazed what grandmother is selling their old organs.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this thing, so this has, I mean, I got this for $300, which was actually fairly expensive in today's world, but it was because it was in such good shape. It's a Lowry organ. It's got a Leslie speaker, just like a B3.
Oh, wow.
But what it does have that the B3 doesn't have is it's the Holiday with Magic Genie and Magic Melody.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so the crazy thing is, and this is 1973 technology, and this lady still had all the paperwork. So here's the piece we'll be playing when the Saints go marching in. It's got, these are fascinating because this is literally, hey, you don't know music? Well, we're going to teach you everything about it. But here's the service manual.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, this thing's 175 pounds. It's got, I think, 7 speakers built in, 6 amplifiers, and the technology back then, you hit the AOC, the automatic organ computer, and now you've got, so here's just a melody. Now you've got harmonies. So when they talk about 2-finger playing,
Yeah.
this is what we're talking about.
That's
you got the whole rhythm, bass parts, and one note melody, and yet you're still hearing all the harmonies. Hours of fun.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I've actually used this to start writing a couple silly songs, just creating a rhythm bed to just give it that cheesy flavor. Because, I mean, there's nothing these days that can match the cheese factor of, you know, all these different stops and that sort of stuff that you can do with it.
That's awesome.
So that's a lot of fun. That's pretty addictive.
Oh, yeah. Seems like a great tool to kind of learn on too.
You know, it's really, to understand harmonizations and all that stuff, it's really pretty crazy. And it's so cheesy now that it's, you know, I think it's back in style. I'm not a guitarist. I think my fingers are too fat, but I can play 4 strings. So I've got ukuleles and some other ethnic instruments here, a couple
cigar box.
Technically, let's see, they're strung like guitars, but they're 4 strings, so I tune them like a ukulele and that sort of thing. Had a guy in Alabama, I've never seen one of these before, but it's a ukulele and a bass ukulele. They call it a U-bass, but it's tuned like a bass, but it's got these polyurethane strings.
Wow.
That you can't even hear it, it's so soft, but it's got a pickup built into it. But once you get a pickup through it, it really sounds like an upright bass. And they make a product called a U-bass, which is a legit bass that's the size of a tenor uke, that if you ever are traveling and need the sound of an upright bass, U-bass. Links
awesome.
Below. Right?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I've always been, you know, a trumpet player, but all the brass instruments, so I finally found a tuba on eBay years ago, and I was so excited about that. So I'm a tuba owner now, which is only fitting because Larry plays the tuba, and so I was able to. I've used this on a lot of VeggieTales products. Yeah, with my traveling, you know, can never.
Oh my gosh.
Never have enough rubber chickens and rubber pigs. Some of those came from China.
All right, and then this is kind of like the home base here.
Yeah, so, you know, I used to have racks and racks of gear. Now everything is internal, and I'm running Logic on my main computer, and then I've got, which is a Mac Mini, and then I've got an older Mac Tower with an 8-core that runs Vienna Ensemble Pro and a bunch of my symphonic libraries. So I'm running those two in conjunction. I wanted something that was more compact, minimal gear, so you don't see any outboard stuff here. This is my grandfather's desk.
Wow.
And so now basically everything's in the computer. With the libraries these days, it's just amazing what you can do. So yeah, I'm running Logic, and a nice monitor, but then this is just a TV monitor.
Reference.
What I like to do is if I'm working with animation, I'm doing all my writing here, got all my plugins and stuff over here. I'm watching the video up here. And this way, if I've got a client or a director, they can be sitting here and I can be sitting here and working, writing, and they can be watching the video. So that's how I like to work. This is the way I work.
Wow.
Every day. Because I discovered years ago that if I was sitting up like this, my tension builds up here and my sciatic nerves here, I'm getting into too much detail here, but some of you will appreciate this. My sciatic nerves, if I sit like this for 15 minutes, the next day, I'm just in pain all over here for days.
Yeah.
And the only way that I've found that works is I've got a footrest down here. And this is literally how I write all day.
Wow.
And I never have any
Well, it's better
pain.
for your posture. It's bad to have your knees up like that. So it's better to have them out.
I've just discovered that this works for me. So when people sit in my chair, they're like, whoa, because it has, because it's made to tilt back like this. So I'm using this, but I'm also, I've got a wave drum here. This is the Oriental, which had a bunch of extra sounds in it, which actually are Middle Eastern also. And I actually have several projects that I write Middle Eastern music. So this...
That's really cool.
Yeah, it can really give me some really great sounds. The other thing I discovered decades ago was the wind controller. Being a brass player and a woodwind player, but also loving technology, I use the wind controller a lot. This one's the EWI 4000S, so this one's a couple years old. So this is a MIDI controller that uses trumpet or saxophone fingerings and then uses your breath. But the beauty of it, so with wind controller, I'm literally using my breath to control the volume. I'm using my breath and the lip to control the vibrato.
Whoa.
It's set up so it's a legato mode, so you can do some trills. So a lot of my woodwinds and brass, I'll actually start here.
Wow.
And just literally breathe life into the sound.
Yeah.
And that makes a world of difference.
And that's made by Akai?
This one is made by Akai. The cool thing about this one, it's got its own analog sound module built in. So you could pop a couple batteries into this, pop a line out, and be playing a show.
Wow.
Now, the sounds you just heard are sampled.
Sure.
So those are MIDI coming out of the computer.
Yeah.
There's newer ones that are cheaper that are just USB. Yamaha also makes a WX series, which is just a competitor. They're really nice also. So
nice. I've never seen one of those before. That's really cool.
Yeah. The cool thing about the Akai, me being a trumpet player, you can set these fingerings up instead of as a saxophone, you can set them up actually as a trumpet fingering.
Oh, cool.
So even though it looks like an atomic clarinet, some people call it, it's actually using a hybrid trumpet fingering, which makes it a little easier for me to learn. But I find not many people use them because it's combining, you've got to be a band geek, either play a saxophone or a trumpet, and an electronics geek.
Yeah.
And you usually find one or the other.
Right.
But if you can cross that bridge, it opens a whole, there's whole sample libraries and machines that are built just to emulate woodwind instruments.
Yeah.
And it's really convincing.
Yeah. What are some of the sample packs you love to use?
The Vienna Ensemble, I've had theirs for years. That's a good just core. LA Scoring Strings is a huge one that I use for strings.
Who makes LA? Is that the name of the company?
Is that Audio Bro, I believe?
Audio Bro?
I think
cool.
that's the company, yes. I use a ton of contact instruments because I've gotten on a lot of mailing lists and they're always sending out, hey, this $500 package, now $99. And I'm always picking up stuff that's just left of center. I love acoustic things, organic things. So anything that gives me, and I do a lot of writing in that genre, a lot of scoring. So anything that gives me a fresh take on acoustic things, because even in Logic, I mean, there's so much you can do with this, with the synthesizer packages there.
Yeah.
And,
especially now.
oh my gosh.
The new update they did where they added in the whole Ableton thing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to pay $1,000 for Logic and have none of what it's got now. And now you've got, you know, even just the Apple loops. I start a lot of things with an Apple loop.
Yeah.
And then I mask it with 10 other layers, but it started with an Apple loop.
Yeah.
And sometimes people think, oh, it's Apple loops. I don't know about that. I'm like, oh, give it a try.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to get the job
Apple
done.
loops are amazing.
I'm working on several projects right now that take place in the Middle East. And, you know, there's some fantastic rhythmic loops that I start with.
Yeah.
Or some plucked loops that, yeah, I mean, I can't create that on my own.
Yeah.
Or with a sampled instrument, it's like, no, I need that loop to get it going. But then you layer it in with some live percussion and a string line, and all of a sudden you don't know what's live and what's fake.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I compare it to a fake Christmas tree. So everybody wants a real Christmas tree. I grew up with a real Christmas tree, but inevitably we've got a fake one now. But the goal is to make the fake one look like the live tree.
Sure.
So, you know, when I'm stringing up the lights, it's already got lights on it, but I'm going to put some extra lights like down the middle of the tree so they kind of, you kind of see them through the branches, get a 3D effect. And then, you know, you put the ornaments on, but then you're going to put the garland and the tinsel on. And you're basically creating these layers to try to trick you into believing it's a real tree.
Yeah.
So that's what I look at this as, is my computer. We don't have a budget to hire a dozen musicians, so my job is to fake you into believing that you're hearing an entirely live orchestra.
Yeah.
Or you don't even notice it because you're not distracted.
Sure.
You're seeing the story, you're hearing the story, and I'm interpreting the emotions for you to live along with in the story. I'm using the Apollo 2 Duo for my audio interface. I've got a little bit of MIDI coming in from an old Uniter 8. You know, I have my computer guy that helped me set up the interface between the two computers, but it was like one cable, and that was it. And
that's awesome.
So that's the very non-technical answer to how these two are running together. I think if I had to start right now if all of this was gone, I'd probably get one computer as the fastest that I can get. I enjoy having the second computer, but Vienna Ensemble Pro, just the extra step that I have to take of communicating between them can be a little bit, it can slow the process down. So basically, and we're seeing a screen here of the second computer mirroring my second computer, and that's the Vienna Ensemble Pro there. But so I've got my core orchestra set up there, and I never touch it.
Yeah.
And then when I open up Logic, you know, I've created my own template, and this one I've got 400 channels on here, which is virtually all orchestral instruments.
Wow.
So I've got it divided into solo strings, string sections, string effects, and then I get into woodwinds and brass effects, percussion. And so the core orchestra is over on Vienna Ensemble Pro. But when I need to do volumes or differences in effects and that sort of stuff, it can get a little hairier having to jump back and forth.
Yeah.
So if I had all the money in the world, I'd just get the fastest Mac right now and just throw it all into one system.
Finding a good 88 key controller that has a couple pads on it, a couple faders, but is also not 10 inches thick.
That is, here's ironically, the only reason I got this controller is because the footprint is so small. And it's the impact. It ends in TAR. It's not a guitar, but I can't even remember the name of it. We're gonna have to post it.
Yeah.
The only reason I got this one is because it's a small footprint, because I had to have it fit on here. This, which is an old Oxygen 8, this is what I use for MIDI. My main controls right here. That's why they're so worn. So I can be writing and then writing, you know, in this case, there's my breath controller too.
Oh, nice.
So I'm writing that with my knobs. And then if I've got a patch, which so many of the patches these days, like string patches, come with, okay, you've got all your key switches right here. Well, Stream Deck Jim Daniker introduced me to this. So Stream Deck, you can use this and program anything you want. Any command in your computer can go into Stream Deck. So if I want to open up my email, I just hit that button. There's my email.
Boom.
But in my case, I use it in Logic, so I've got quantized to the quarter note, quantized to the eighth note, quantized to the 16th note, strip silence, and I just hit that, so I just strip something. I can also set up a sub menu, so if I go over here, now I'm on another whole layer, and here I've got all my patch changes. So if this C is polyphonic and this one's legato and this one's muted, you know, whatever, pizzicato, and instead of having to remember, well, which one goes with which, I've got it labeled right here. You know, polyphonic, legato, senza, consordino, trills, and those are for my main string patches. So I've got, you know, this controller here, this one on knobs, or this one controlling what patch I'm playing. Then I can just get back to my main menu, do my quantization, and anything you want to do with it. And you can set up multiple subfolders, or you can get multiple Stream Decks, or you can get the newer Stream Deck, which I think has twice as many buttons. So
very, very cool.
Super
useful.
Yeah, I love the Stream Deck. It was built for gamers and YouTubers that needed to, you know, cut to camera too, boom. It's all MIDI, so I can say if I need a MIDI command, okay, I'm going to play C2, I can program that in there. And it's all done on the computer. You can pull up the little window.
Yeah.
So, and then every one of these, you can customize every one of these with your own typing in there, whatever you want to say, and then you can even put a picture in there, do a screen grab of something, and drop it all in there.
That's awesome.
And then I love my trackball because I've got, you know, multiple commands on here. Probably the biggest thing, I'm doing this little pizzicato part. Nothing shows up there because I don't know if I want to use it. As soon as I like it, I've got a capture last take on here.
Nice.
So I'm not recording, deleting, recording, deleting. I keep playing, yep, I like that one, capture. So little things like that is what I love using the trackball for.
That's awesome.
So,
what speakers are these?
Okay, these are old 2020s biamps. The interesting thing that I do, which I know isn't what most people do, but I love the Sony MDR7506s. I mean, I've used these headphones or headphones like this for decades, and I just love the clean sound. So 90% of the time I'm working on headphones because I want to hear the intricacies of the attack of that string sound.
Sure.
And really getting it right. But then once I'm done with a mix, then I'm going to turn the speakers on and listen to it with fresh ears.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to hear stuff, reverb mixes especially, balances between things that I'm always going to redo. And then I never send out a mix without listening to it again the next day.
Yeah,
next morning. Fresh ears, I'm like, holy cow, how did I miss that? So yeah, when I'm done writing on the headphones, I'll monitor on the speakers, do a mix, and then give it a day break, do a mix again the next day, or bounce it down and listen to it in the car if it's more of a pop mix as opposed to a score mix. Yeah.
Cool. And then you have some mics permanently set up here. What mics are we using?
So a little bit of history. This C414 was the one that came out of the Big Idea Studio. So will mean nothing to a lot of you, but anybody that's a Bob and Larry fan. So every Bob and Larry voice from show one was recorded on this mic. So that's
cool.
So that's kind of cool for me to still have this mic. It's just a great standard mic. I use it for all my vocals, all my Irish whistles, all my percussion. I can just swing it over and grab some percussion and whatever. So that's my main go-to mic. And then my second one is ribbon mics. I started out with the shiny boxes. I found a pair on Craigslist, and I've got one here and then one behind us here that I use. But I've since then, and I mean, you can't get any cheaper than this, but the Sterling ribbon mic, I mean, if you're just getting started, I can't say enough about the Sterling. And he's not covering up anything because there's the element actually right there.
Nice.
But the Sterling, for my brass playing, I only use the ribbon mics. It just warms up. I mean, something like the 414 is just too brittle for my trumpet playing.
Sure.
So the Sterling is fantastic for that. The shiny boxes are great for that. In this way, You know, I've got my trumpet here, I can record right here. If I grab my trombone, I can record it right here. If I grab my French horn, that's what I was using to record with it. But I realized I've got just a little too much space in the room. The room is coloring it just a little too much. So now what I do is, the nice thing is, say I've written a line in the computer, I'm just gonna pull that over to here, grab my French horn, read it from here, and this mic picks it up. And this gets me closer, and now I can affect it with my own reverb instead of the room affecting it. You know, if you've got one good large diaphragm and one good ribbon, I mean, that's gonna cover so many bases.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super efficient setup.
And then, you know, over here, I've just got my wall of percussion, you know, just anything and everything. And again, I just love, you know, hey, I was in Mexico. Well, you got to get a maraca.
Yeah.
You know, but every one of them sounds different. You know, I need a little acoustic drum. I might be doing a train beat or a little country thing or a little Dixieland thing. I can just grab my snare and some doodads over here, set them up right here and mic them up, which is different, I totally get it, than doing a pop mix or a rock mix.
Sure.
I'm gonna send that out and do that with somebody else. There's a shop here, McKay's Used Books. They cover books and CDs and records, but they also have instruments. And so I'm always taking things in like old books and trading them in, and then most of my cymbals came from there. You know, they're all cheap, but it does the trick for me. Because I tend to go for the more organic, sloppy sound than the tight, compressed pop sound.
Yeah.
And again, I love this sort of stuff. You know, you go to a souvenir shop on the coast in Florida and you get that stuff.
Oh, sweet.
Here's my Theremin. This was hand-built by Bob Moog. He signed it, the inventor of the synthesizer. He for a while, had a company that was building his own Theremins. So this is like, I've just got a little Yamaha speaker down here. This is wicked if I was running it through some effects and delay and some reverb. But you know, the Theremin was the first electronic instrument ever invented. You've got your pitch here and your volume here.
Wow.
So I could do a whole B-movie, a horror film B-movie scored on that.
That's
so I don't
so
get a
fun.
lot of use out of it.
Yeah.
But if anybody needs a Theremin, you know where to go. My other find that I found on Craigslist, I tell you, is the place to go, is a Helicon. This predates the tuba and the sousaphone. This one was built in about 1880 in Paris, France.
Whoa.
So it's a little smaller than a tuba, but it's a little easier to carry around. But I love to take this on the street. Kind of soup it up with everything. I've even been known to strap a rubber chicken on here and squeeze that. So I play in a German band occasionally, so this is perfect.
Wow. How many things can we strap onto one?
Exactly. Trust me, I've experimented with what I can fit on there.
Amazing. The majority of the work you're doing is composing?
Yes. Composing or writing songs for film and video.
Okay.
There's going to be a show coming out next year called Dead Sea Squirrels, which is a spoof of literally dead squirrels that were found in the caves of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And they come to life and tell this kid stories of what happened in Jesus' time. So I'm scoring for that.
Okay.
But there's a song in there too.
Nice.
And right now we're working on a reggae tune, you know, but it might be reggae, it might be Dixieland, it might be country. So I'm scoring 20 minutes and then I'm doing a 3-minute song in that. So
that's awesome.
So that's a typical show for me.
And then you also do photography.
I do photography on the side. I've always loved photography. Us creatives, I know you can relate to that. It's like music, photography, video. There's something about there's similar
Yeah.
in how our mind thinks. So I've always dabbled in photography and started shooting professionally about a dozen years ago. So now I do a lot of the local artists, concerts, events, have done some photography with travel and that sort of stuff. So yeah, so I love doing that also.
So do you have like a website, Instagram, and stuff for people who maybe want to reach out to you or
Sure.
just follow the stuff you're doing?
So my website is khstudios.biz. KH as in Kurt Heinecke, studios plural, .biz, B-I-Z.
Okay.
It's being updated right now. So
Cool.
it feels a little bit old right now. I've got a guy working on it right now. But it gives you some background in both my audio and photography sides. And if you need to reach out to me, you know what? Feel free to email me at kurt@khstudios.biz. Kurt, K-U-R-T.
Okay.
If it's easier, if you have trouble, some people say they're having trouble getting through on that. So I'll put that out there if you need to reach out to me for whatever reason.
Cool.
You know, I speak at a lot of colleges just because I've had a wide background before I was film scoring and that sort of stuff. You know, as a music teacher, band director, all those different things. So it's fun to be able to go into a school and talk to a music major that says, yeah, I just want to do this.
Yeah.
And I say, well, you don't know what you're going to be doing in 10 years. You maybe need to get some more experience in all these different fields.
Yeah.
And just talk to them about that sort of stuff.
Sure.
And just challenge them with some different things and that sort of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is there any new projects coming out?
So I just finished in the last couple months wrapping up some more VeggieTales shows. So some of the people that have been VeggieTales fans for decades may not realize that TBN did 26 new episodes of VeggieTales that the band got back together and we did 26 new episodes. So those are streaming through TBN. So if you look up VeggieTales, I'm sure you're going to find those. Dead Sea Squirrels will be out next year with Mike Naraki. Andrew Peterson has a fantasy series called Wing Feather Saga that I'll be scoring, and he's got several books out there right now that are really growing in popularity. So I'll be working on that. So those are two big projects that are coming up that I know about. There's others that I can't tell you about, because we don't have them locked in yet.
Sure.
But yeah, but
That's awesome.
those will be exciting.
Do you have any plans of doing stuff with YouTube, or do you have a channel?
No, I don't. And I've been looking at doing different things just because as a freelancer, there's going to be free time on my hands at some point.
Yeah.
And that's why I got into photography and getting into video some, but I haven't taken the YouTube plunge yet.
All right, well, you know who to call.
But I
when you
know
do.
who to check out if if I need to, because you're doing a great job with these. This has been fun.
All right, well, thank you so much for having us. And
Sweet.
I will put the links for all your stuff down in the description if anyone wants to reach out or follow you with everything that you're doing. And I'll get out of here.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
This was a lot of fun.
Great to
Had a
meet
great
you.
time.